Hello my friends, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review. So this week I'm going to be talking once more about Big Ed and Liz. Guys, I know I said I wouldn't talk about them again, but such is the ridiculousness of this relationship, I'm duty bound to do it. Both Liz and Big Ed are in an epic fight. Guys, not just with each other, but to prove to the world that each one is more toxic than the other. For seasons now, people have been saying, Big Ed's toxic, he's manipulative, he's awful, and you're right, he's all of those things. But guys, so is Liz. It's my contention that Liz's whole purpose in life is simply to act as a warning to others. Liz is the kind of person who always claims that she hates the drama. Guys, she starts the drama. And what about Big Ed? Well, it's something he said this week that really made me think about his character once more. He said to Liz, since day one, I've had an issue with the people that are in your life. I don't want a girlfriend, let alone a fiance, let alone a wife that wants to have a girls' night out. What? So you're saying Liz, who's 29, can no longer go out because you're over it and you're 57? Is that what you're saying, Ed? Can you hear yourself? Well, unfortunately, we can hear you. And we're all witnessing an unparalleled level of selfishness. Guys, I'm going to break this whole shit show down for you. But just before I do, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, press that big red button, and help me achieve my aim of making it to 1 million subscribers. I've only got 955,000 to go. I reckon I can do it by Christmas. And also it's been brought to my attention that YouTube for some reason have been unsubscribing people and also not notifying people when I have a new video. So please don't forget to press the notification bell if you don't want to miss any of my content. And as usual, please don't forget to smash that like button. Right, and so without further ado, I give you Big Ed and Liz. And so it's still the same night of the big arguments at the engagement party. And Ed's busy telling production he's worried about where Liz is. She could be out walking on her own with he doesn't know who. Ed, I think you'll find you do know who, because of course when she blanked your call, like she always does, you called your producer's phone and he handed it over to Liz, so you know good and well that Liz is with production. This is a very pointless narrative from Toxic Ed. He gets in the car and goes home and decides to wait for her. Whilst he's waiting, he no doubt works on his disses, for he plans to eviscerate her the moment she gets home. So finally, Liz turns up, and she's still a drunk, swivel-eyed loon. But nevertheless, Ed launches straight into what was happening with that woman. And that woman, of course, is this lesbian ex-colleague that Liz invited to her engagement do, even though knowing the ex-colleague has a crush on her. And so as we know, she and this ex-colleague had some sort of argument at the engagement. And Liz felt the need to have security escort her out. But Liz is now deciding to play this whole thing down to Ed. Ed said, she got physical with you. And Liz said, no, she didn't. And Ed said, yes, she did. And Liz said, do you think I'm having a relationship with someone? And Ed said, well, I think you did in the past. You told me. And Liz said, show me proof. And guys, I think this is, I don't know, slightly sketchy on Liz's behalf. I'm not saying she did have a relationship with this woman. But I always find when somebody says, show me proof, instead of saying, well, when and who's told you this? I find it rather shady. But as we all know, Ed is overly paranoid, and his default position on anything is, you're cheating on me, you're not to be trusted. And then he said to her, when we were split up, you were with both men and women. But Liz, of course, denies this. I think it's very likely she told him that she was, just to wind him up. Because she then goes on to talk about Ed taking out sugar babies and taking out women when they'd split up. Liz, my love, I don't really count it as taking out women if you have to pay for them, as you do with sugar babies. Ed then asked Liz, are you attracted to women? And Liz emphatically denies it. But then she said, well, Ed, you don't come to bed anymore, you don't cuddle me, you show me no love in this relationship. And at this point, I don't know why Liz is continuing to argue with Ed. He'll simply drag her down to his level and then beat her with experience. And then this argument very quickly dissolves into insults. Oh, it's my favourite part. Ed reminds Liz that she tells him he has a small dick. Really, Liz? The whole of Ed is miniature. Did you expect it to be massive? She really isn't wrapped too tight. And then he reminds her that all her friends are trashy. Ed, Are you not one of Liz's friends? Interesting, very interesting. But next comes my favourite part of this, well, debate shall we call it? And it's the fat files. Who's fat and who's called who fat? In the blue corner is Ed, and Ed claims he's never called Liz fat. All he said was there's no point going to the gym for 3 hours and then eating nachos from 7-Eleven afterwards. The truth be told, guys, I kinda make him right. And in the red corner is Liz, and she actively calls Ed fat, but I guess this is an undebatable point. But she claims she only calls Ed fat and tells him he has a small dick because he calls her fat. And so, guys, as they were arguing, Ed said, well, I don't call you fat, but, I eat pie, I eat lots of stuff I shouldn't. I'm overweight too. And Liz was about to get her next diss in, and she suddenly realised, what? I'm overweight too? Ed, am I overweight? And you could tell he was caught totally unawares. She asked him straight out, am I overweight? And he said, no, you're not. He had both his fingers crossed behind his back, for he believes she is overweight.
And I also eat pie, and I have a sweet tooth. I'm overweight too.
You couldn't even fucking fit into your fucking... Am I overweight, Ed?
Why are you using the
Am I overweight?
No.
And Ed denies to production ever calling Liz fat. Guys, what do you think?
I've never called Liz fat. I'll drop positive hints, and I know I have to work on myself too, but I've never called her fat.
Well, I think it's highly likely that he has called her fat, but just not in so many words. And so Ed then tells Liz, well, I don't want to marry you until you tell me the truth. And you can tell it's one of those, what's the phrase, double-edged sword? If she continues to deny fancying women, Ed will call her a liar. And if she admits it, Ed will call her a cheat and a liar. She can't win. Ed said, well, unless you tell me the truth, you don't have a chance in hell. And she pointed out quite amusingly, I've already got a one-way ticket to hell. I'll raise both of you too. You're currently living in hell, and you're putting the viewers through hell. Oh dear. Lord deliver us from these pair of idiots. And so then it comes out that apparently Liz has thrown Ed's alleged $13,000 ring into a bush. $13,000, Ed? Guys, this whole statement is giving me Stephanie's watches. Remember the $4,000 watch that she had, which turned out to be $390. Yeah, it's giving me that tease. Ed said, are you dumb? This is the end now. If you've thrown that ring away, which was a symbol of our love, that's it. Ed, Liz, we all hope it is. With every sinew of my being, I hope it is the end of your relationship. You're both toxic, you're both ridiculous, you're both liars, and you're both fame hoes. This whole relationship's a joke. So Liz gets changed and jumps into the producer's car. She calls a friend and asks if she can stay the night. She tells her, Ed and I have finished. And so en route, she jumps into somebody's front garden and looks for her engagement ring, her $13,000 engagement ring. She looks for a couple of seconds and promptly finds it. The producer said, what, you found it? And he sounded genuinely shocked. I'm sure you did, producer. He's just spent the last 20 minutes looking for it while Ed and Liz were arguing. He's devoed. He was about to take it down to the pawn shop. And so on the way to her friend's house, Liz starts snivelling. She said, I wanted to be the one to show Ed real, true love. What? By letting him know he's fat, nobody fancies him, and he has a small dick. Is that the route to true love? I thought a way to a man's heart was through his stomach, not through the most evil insults one can muster. Oh, Lord. And finally she arrives. She sees her friend on the street and she goes to embrace her. Honestly, I don't know where Ed gets off saying that all Liz's friends are trashy. I don't know what his problem is. She and her friends sit and talk about Ed on the park bench, and her friend lets her know she doesn't like Ed and she thinks they should split up. Liz then tells production if they can't get over this argument, this relationship is done for good. Oh really? Well, done for good it is then. And so next time we see this crappy couple, really shockingly, Liz is in Ed's bed. And Ed lets us know that she went and got the ring, and then she returned home with it. So after all that prevaricating and saying, I'm going to stay with my friend, I've fallen out with Ed, you went home anyway. Guys, I really can't with these two. And so the couple start chatting. I wonder what time it is. Oh yes, it's time for the Ebird to be proven right. And so lots and lots of subscribers in my comments were saying, just because she was talking to another girl, Ed just decides she's a lesbian. It's so pathetic. And I said there's more to it than meets the eye. I do believe that she's made some intimation of her liking women before, or there's something in the relationship with this woman that made Ed even think about it or ask the question. I know he's ridiculous, don't get me wrong. But there was something in the denials of Liz which didn't ring true. Namely, the first one was her just doing a Usain Bolt at the very mention of, did something happen between you? So remember last week when she emphatically denied ever fancying a woman? Well, guess what? Ed said to Liz, the reason I thought it is because you said to me, when we first got together, you told me you'd be with a woman if it wasn't for me. Liz doesn't deny this, but Liz simply tries to, fudge things like she always does. And she said, you broke my heart so badly that I said I'd be with a woman. I didn't want to have another breakup, so I thought I'll just date a woman. So you did say that, Liz. And in addition to that, the woman that you had removed from your engagement party, you admit has feelings for you. It was unsurprising that Ed would ask the question. Having said that, was it the wrong time? Most definitely. But also what's interesting is Liz's characterization of gay people not managing to break people's hearts. Do you think, Liz, if you went out with a woman, she wouldn't have an equal capacity to break your heart as a man? What do you think gay people are? Inanimate objects? Guys, this line of thinking is just so weird to me. Liz really does talk a lot of shit. Liz thinks I'm having a gay relationship, so everything's going to be different. Liz, from what you've said about Ed's manhood, if you dated a woman, I think there would be very, very little that would be different. Very little indeed. Just when you think you've heard it all, you hear something else. And as they argue back and forth, finally, Ed drops his real feelings.
I've had an issue with the people that are in your life. I don't want a girlfriend, let alone a fiance, let alone a wife that wants to have a girls' night out, that wants to be in a bar.
You want a wife? I am home with you.
And guys, this is where I find the major problem with Ed. He does want to control Liz. She's 29, you are 57. Of course you don't want to go out as much. Of course Liz still wants to go out. She's young. I didn't stop going out till I was about, 35, 37. People like to party. Well, not millennials, but, as Gen Xers, we like to party. Ed, you've had your fair share of partying, so why try and stop Liz from doing the same? And so they argue back and forth. She repeats the slur that he has a small manhood, and she then reminds him that he said he'd rather sleep with Alex. I think that's the model, the blonde one, than her. And judging by the look on his face, I think he actually did say that, which is pretty nasty. And it's clear for anyone with 2 eyes and 2 ears, these two are toxic. They will never get on. They have always argued. They always want to one-up each other. And I don't feel like there's any real love in this relationship. Liz asks Ed to leave and says this relationship's done, and Ed said fine. He went into the other room and said, I was vulnerable when I proposed to Liz because Teddy had just died, but I realised it was the wrong thing. I've lost all my family because of this. No, Ed, you've lost your family because of you and your poor decisions. Ed stands outside of the apartment and says, I do love Liz, but now I don't have anywhere to go emotionally. And he does his well-worn Ed trick, which is starting crying and getting emotional. Ed, we've seen this millions of times. We don't buy it. You are manipulative and toxic. And Liz, don't sit there laughing at the back. So are you. And that's where we end things for this week. And so what does the Ebird make from all of this? Well, well, well. What a surprise. This toxic couple have split up once again. All I've got to say is, what took you so long? Now, there's a very well-worn narrative on the internet that Ed is the toxic, manipulative one. But guys, after watching Liz for a couple of seasons, I now realise she's every bit as bad as Ed. She matches Ed. Manipulation for manipulation. She presses buttons. He's so insecure. Why are you so insecure? Why don't you trust anybody? Knowing very well, as we talked about in the last video, why he's insecure. She doesn't try to allay any of his fears or insecurities. She shines a fucking headlight on them. Why would you do that? When Ed gets upset, she looks at him as if to say, I've seen it all before, although never quite so much of it. But then we come to Ed, He doesn't trust Liz as he doesn't trust any woman at all ever. Knowing that she's 29 and quite young, he doesn't want her to have any friends, they're all trashy. And he doesn't want to be married to someone who wants to go on a girls' night out. Women need female friends and different company in exactly the same way that men do. It's toxic to say you're not allowed out with the friends that you've had for many years. It's ridiculous. But one of the main problems between these two is the way that they talk to each other, i.e. the language they use. You have a small dick, you're fat, you're insecure, you'll never be happy, you've got a one-way ticket to hell. All of these statements are despicable statements to make to someone who you proclaim to love, and these insults fly freely from each of their mouths. On God, I don't speak about people I hate as badly as they speak about each other. It leaves me breathless. But the final point I have to make about this, and this is for anyone wondering, is Liz as manipulative as Ed? Yes, she is, because remember the phone call that Liz did all those seasons ago? And again, I'll link it down below if you've yet to listen to it. But Liz always makes out as if Ed talks over her and she can't get a word in edgeways. But it's very interesting to note that when you see them in real time on this show, Liz gives as much as she gets from Ed. So on that phone call, one of the main things that made everyone say he's so toxic is that every time she tried to speak, he talked over her. He shouted her down. But I noticed now there's something that Liz does, and there's a halting way that she speaks. So she makes an accusation and she leaves an open space. Of course, Ed jumps in there with his size 10s. Well, child size 10s. And fills that space. But this week when they were arguing, she said, no more, no more. You're not going to talk over me anymore. I have a voice. And she was trying to do the I am an empowered female bit. Don't buy it. You're full of crap, Liz. You always knew how to argue and you always gave as good as you got. You just tried to trick everybody into thinking you were one of these downtrodden women that isn't allowed to have a voice. You tried to manipulate us, the viewer. And it's this that I speak of, and this is what calls you out as a manipulative liar. You seem very adept at arguing with Big Ed, and although he does always shout people down, so do you. And finally, Liz, this diatribe that Ed's so paranoid. I don't know why. It's pathetic. You do know why. And as we found out this week, you're the one that has said to him, I think I'm going to start going out with women. Liz, you know what you do. You plant a tiny seed and you leave it to germinate in Ed's fertile mind. And that's what makes you every bit as toxic as Big Ed. Guys, that's about it. What do you think? Which one of these two is the most toxic? Or do they just cancel each other out? I kind of think they do. I hope this is the end of their relationship, and I also hope it's the last that we'll see of them. As a couple, they quite simply don't work. Guys, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Help me get to 1 million. Come on. A girl can always dream. Please do not forget to smash the like button. That's the most important analytic of all. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I bid you good day.